Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tom Jorgensen here. I'm the drummer for the Beetlejuice the Musical First National Broadway Tour. We are here at the Walton Arts Center in downtown Fayetteville, Arkansas. And I've been invited by Working Drummer Podcast to be a part of their new video series called Road Rigs, which working drummers take you behind the scenes to show off their rigs, show off their gear, all that good stuff. So while we're here, we're just about to start our evening show. So I'm gonna take you backstage, show off my rig. All right, here we are. Welcome to the Beetlejuice Tour drum room. If you'll notice, this doesn't look like a pit orchestra. It looks like a random room that has no business having a drum kit in, which it is. It's a random room. The reason it's a random room is because, believe it or not, the show was specifically designed to have drums remote in a separate room every single town that we go to for every show. The reason for that is the sound designers on our show specifically wanted very separate and ultimate control over all of the sound elements of the show, drums and other instrumentalists included. To have drums separate gives them all the control over processing of this kit, as well as the processing of the other instrumentalists in the pit orchestra. And it reduces bleed, because let's be real, drums are very loud, and this show is no exception. The drums are very loud on this show. They're so loud that it would introduce so much bleed that the sound designers wouldn't have the capability of mixing the show to the most impactful that they really want to. So every single town that I go in, our stage management finds me a room that is suitable for drums to be housed in, and I play the show. And with the help of these sound baffles all around, it gives the microphones at least some element of control over whatever room that we're in. So these sound baffles at least help us to contain the sound of what the microphones hear for each of these elements. All right, let's check out this kit here. What do we got? We've got a DW Collector Series drum kit in a gorgeous gold sparkle. Our sizes are, we've got a 10-inch, 12-inch rack tom on a rack, and we've got a 16-inch and a behemoth 18-inch floor tom. This is such an awesome kit to play every night. And let's not forget the kick drum, which is a 22 by 16-inch kick drum. And the star of the show, in my opinion, the snare drum. It's actually a new acquisition to me, and for the show specifically. This is a Ludwig chrome over brass 6.5 by 14-inch snare drum. I was using this guy over here for the longest time. This is a Ludwig Supraphonic hammered brass shell with the tube lugs. This was 5 by 14, and while it's a really awesome drum, and I was using it for over a year on the show, I was just missing a little bit of the depth that I wanted, and so I ended up picking this baby up, and it is no disappointment whatsoever. And for other percussion elements, we've got 14-inch timbali up here, as well as an LP conga off to the side here. All right, for drum heads, I believe that there are no finer drum heads on the planet than Remo drum heads. Full stop. What I'm using on the snare drum here is the ever-trusty, ever-famous Coated Ambassador. I use that for most of my snares, even at home. I think they're just the best drum head on the market. The heads of choice for the toms have had a little bit of variation throughout the tour. What I started with was my pretty typical Coated Ambassadors. I love them on toms. I get a lot of top-end clarity as well as some body and some oomph, but I wanted a little bit more punch, so I moved up to the Coated Emperors, which gave me that oomph, but I was still missing a little bit of thwack. I tried out the Emperor Clears, and they gave me almost too much thwack for my taste and for this particular show. So what I ended up going with, believe it or not, I don't see these very often, and correct me if I'm wrong if more people use these, but these are the Emperor Smooth White heads. And the reason I had the inspiration to try these heads out was from Shannon Ford, who used the equivalent of these on the Broadway show in New York. He found that he was able to get a thwack, a very nice stick definition from non-coated heads without going completely clear. So while these have some paint on them, some white paint, they have no coating on them. So they're able to give a little bit more of the top thwack of the stick hitting the center of the head, and still have the punch of Emperor drum heads. So I've had these on for a while now, and I'm absolutely in love with them. And for the kick drum, we've got the ever classic Remo Power Stroke P3 Clear. For drumsticks, we've got our trusty Vic Firth Extreme 5A drumsticks for multiple uses. The bead is amazing for multiple styles and genres, which this show very much needs. I use these for a little bit of extra length to get around this massive kit, and it's super helpful, and they sound great, and everything they touch sounds great. So this is why Vic Firth are my favorite sticks. I should also mention, as some of you I'm sure noticed, there's quite a severe angle on my toms and my snare mounted on this rack here. And the reason for that is because I'm primarily a traditional grip player. I do switch back to match every once in a while when it's practically impossible to play a number with traditional grip, but primarily before this gig I was mostly traditional grip. That's just the way I practice, that's the way I grew up playing, so that's just what I'm used to. I'm not advocating better or worse, it's just all about what makes you a winner and what makes you able to do the job. But the reason I have these tilted is because with traditional grip I'm able to be as close to parallel to the surface of the drum as possible, because if it were centered and more angled towards me, I'd come up and I'd hit more towards like the center like this, a little bit more pointed and not as parallel to the drum. And in that way, not only will I risk denting the drum heads, but I will risk not getting as full and big of a sound because I'm not activating as much of the drum as possible. So these are angled in a way that if I want to come to match, I'm still able to do this, no problem. And then if I wanted to hit here, I can hit here and it's relatively in line. Same with the floor toms, more or less, but I don't often need to come all the way around with my left hand to this bottom floor tom, which is why it's much better to be angled for my right hand to be here. Easy to just slide my wrist over, and it's all right there. And the same goes for the snare drum here. I have it relatively straight, not terribly angled, so that it could both acquiesce match grip and traditional grip if I wanted. It's all as close to parallel to where I position as I'm sitting at the kit. And it's all off of my thigh, so I'm not hitting my thigh as I'm playing, and it's all keeping me upright. So I get the maximum amount of sound out of the drums as possible. The same can also be said for the cymbals. You'll notice there's a slight incline here, and then as these go this way, there's a slight incline, and that gives me an ability to kind of glance off of the cymbal as opposed to going right through them. I find I get a much warmer tone that still can give the microphones the information that they need, but it activates, in my estimation, more of the cymbal if I use this kind of motion. And so by angling them in such a way, I'm able to glance off of them and it gets more of the cymbal. So that's the way I like having those set up. All right, coming up to the cymbals now, I've got a vast array of my favorite cymbals on the whole entire planet, Zildjian cymbals. With the odd man out, this is a Peisty 12-inch over 10-inch splash stack for an effect in the show. Here we've got Master Sound 14-inch hi-hats. I normally use 15s, but 15s, believe it or not, were a little too much for this show. I wanted a little bit more clarity and some more chick, and these gave it to me. Up here, I've got a Zildjian, a custom 16-inch crash. It's really awesome. I love the projection, the nice crispness, and a lot of top end. It really cuts through the house. Right above it, I've got a Zildjian K Splash 10-inch, which is really awesome. And I absolutely love these cymbal arm attachments that bring whatever you want on top of cymbals, so you could just stack and stack and stack and stack. In this case, it's useful for the splash cymbal. All right, coming over next door is the paper thin K Crash 19-inch. This is such a special cymbal. Not only does it sound amazing, but I needed a very versatile cymbal here because this cymbal not only serves as an extra crash cymbal right off my ride cymbal, but it serves as a suspended cymbal, which is great that it's a paper thin. It really gives these microphones the information they need from a suspended cymbal, as well as some extra effects. Like you'll see, oh, it pains me to death to do some cymbal scratches and scrapes on this, but the show needs it. I use a triangle beater to do some cymbal scrapes. And so this serves multiple purposes in the show. Right next to it is Zildjian's K Sweet Ride 21-inch. Another just absolutely versatile ride cymbal. This has everything that you need in a ride cymbal, and so for all the styles that we incorporate in the show, this handles everything. Next to that, I've got a 19-inch Sweet Crash, which is killer, and above it, I've got Zildjian's new blast bell, which is really awesome, and it's used several times in the show, and it's a really, really cool effect, and it's right next to the mic, so it gets picked up. Right next to it is a Zildjian China. This is an 18-inch China, which you can't play a kit like this without a China cymbal. And coming along with the DW drums, I've got a DW 5000 double kick pedal with a DW 9000 hi-hat pedal. I'll fervently admit, I was not a double kick player prior to this gig 2 years ago. But this show very specifically needed double kick in certain spots in order to sell different stylistic changes. And since then, I've shed my double kick before every show just to get my feet warmed up, and now I can't get enough of it. I want to do double kick on every tour. Okay, let's take a look at the extras, the accoutrements. We've got a Treeworks Mark Tree. We've got the Miller Machine triangle beater, as well as the Miller Machine finger cymbal arm attachment. Best in the business. No Broadway pit is complete without any Miller Machine. We've got underneath an LP cabasa, and directly to the left of the snare, we've got a Roland SPD-SX pad, which has a lot of electronic elements, some snaps, claps, gongs, other elements. We've got some small LP blocks here mounted right next to the snare. And underneath on a tray, we've got this little doodad, Rhythm Tech hat trick, which is really cool. It goes on the top of the hi-hat to do some shaker sorts of stuff, along with a Meinl tambourine that mounts onto the hi-hat for a couple other effects. We've got your standard Acme siren whistle for a very pronounced moment in the show, as well as my cymbal triangle beater for some cymbal scrapes. LP cowbell, LP jam block, and here we've got a Rhythm Tech drum set tambourine mounted here. This is used so much in the show, often to double the snare, and I have it right next to the ride so that when I need to hit it, I can just turn my wrist over it. It's right there. Underneath, I've got my favorite instrument of the whole show. This is the LP Flexitone. Yeah. Next to the Flexitone, we've got a couple of one-shots taped together. It's muted on one side. There's a couple moments in the show that needs this. We've got a Rhythm Tech studio shaker, along with an LP Shake It shaker. Got your standard classic LP granite blocks over to the right side. And right above the granite blocks, we have Rhythm Tech's ribbon crashers, as well as a super rare instrument because they don't make these anymore, but this was on the Broadway production. This is called the Rhythm Tech UFO crasher. It sounds like this. Super, super niche effect, but it's used to such a great effect in the show. It's very, very cool. It took me forever to find, but I found it, and it's mine. Rock and sock drum throne. Next to the kit, I've just got a standard real feel practice pad that I use to warm up before every show. My rig includes a stage camera, which I could see everything happening on stage. I need that for a couple dance cues. Conductor camera here. And I specifically asked for a second one over here because there's a lot of times that I'm stationed over here where I really need to see the conductor's cues. I use Jerry Harvey Roxanne in-ear monitors, and I swear these are the best things I've ever used in my life. They're amazing. All right, we just got our 5-minute call, so I gotta get ready for the show. I gotta warm up, get loose. Thank you very much for coming along with me to check out my drum rig. This has been Road Rigs as a part of Working Drummer Podcast, so thank you very much for having me. I'm Tom Jorgensen. This has been the Beetlejuice First National Broadway Tour. I hope you enjoyed. Until next time.